Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and privilege of having Dr. Jean Oursler. Is that close?
That is perfect.
All right. And I think you go by the name Dr. Jean, the
Results Queen.
That's right. So we were talking before, and I'm interested to pick your brains today. So here's where I like to get started. I just want to ask you, tell us what you do, and then tell us how you got there. Tell me your story. Everybody's got a story, right?
Oh yes, everyone has a story. And so let's see, what we do is we help law firms grow. Hence why we're hanging out and talking with you today, because as we say, lawyers didn't get into the profession of law to either A, run a law firm, so they're to be a business owner, or B, to do business development. And those are the two things that we do with law firms, whether they're small or big or medium. And how did I get into this? So I had two children, and I thought to myself, I'd like to run my own company. So I became a mompreneur before that was even a thing. And from there, we just started, I used to work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies in process improvement and leadership development and sales training. And then my daughter got a concussion, so I had to take everything in-house, and I started an online company. I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. And from there, we realized that the people that we were serving from growth, meaning from biz dev, was lawyers and accountants and financial advisors, and also helping people with the structure of their companies. Because once you turn on biz dev, you got to be able to have your company be able to support that growth. And that's how we got to working with lawyers who I love working with, because they're super smart. They ask great questions, and I'm a great business owner as well as a good biz dev person, so we can help them grow their law firm. So that's how I got here.
Yeah. So your degree, you were telling me your degree is in business psychology. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So I have a PhD in business psychology. That's why I'm called Dr. Jean. And my clients call me the Results Queen, because I'm all about getting a result at the end of the day. So tell me what result you're looking for, and I will get you there, period. Whatever that might be.
So this is a great question I got for you, Did, because do you find sometimes that people who hire you, lawyers or business owners, they don't really know what they want?
Yeah, there are times. Well, most of the time when we get hired, they have a challenge. And the challenge usually, especially with law firms, is that their business partner, right, is not doing blah, blah, blah. Like I met with a lawyer, a managing partner of a law firm. He had started with his best friend from law school. And 20 years later, he's bringing in all the biz dev, and his partner is collecting all the money. And he's like, how do I fix that? And not only that, but he's gotten to an inflection place where it can't be just him running the whole organization, and his partner isn't stepping up to do the business, and he's unhappy. How do you do that? How do you, you're in a marriage when you're with your law partner, right? And I can't tell you how many law firms that we get where I'm doing all the work and they're not doing anything.
I know. I had that situation. I had two partners, and I was bringing in 70% of the income.
Yeah, right. And
you know how I fixed it? I left and started my own firm. That's how I fixed it.
Oh, I love that. I wish people would be, I would do that, but they just seem so wedded to these people, which is why it's like being in a marriage, right?
Well, they say it's just business. You got to look after yourself and your family first. Just always remember that.
I was going to say amen on that. I totally agree. Family first. It always has to be family first. So, and we also get hired a lot by, again, managing partners whose partners or interestingly enough, counsel, the people they want to become partners need to work on business development, because again, lawyers didn't get into the field of practice to become biz dev people. And yet they're really good at it because now they have the right skill set. And we just tell them they have to change their lawyer hat and put on their marketing hat. And they know how to ask questions. They know how to get people to the answer, right? They just know. They're really good at it.
So when you say biz dev, so you're dealing with a lot of transactional firms then?
No, doesn't matter what it is. It could be transactional firms. It could be corporate, corporate, injury, IP, real estate, like you name it, it's all the same. Divorce is different in the sense that it's transactional, right? Divorce, trust and estates, because you get one and you're done. But corporate law or litigation, right? Again, litigation might be a one and done thing, but corporate law, you got to find clients who are going to be with you all the time. And some of our clients have a mixture of public and private. So how do you manage all of that from metrics and from financials, right? So
yeah, I think you're talking about this too, and I think a lot of times lawyers just get together and they don't really think about it. I was watching something yesterday, and the guy was talking. He's saying, you need to bring different things to the table, and you need to have a prenup because they don't always work out, right? Which your prenup is just a share, agreement,
yeah,
operating agreement or whatever, however you set up, partnership agreement. He said, but and I was thinking, I learned this the hard way. Ever since 2005. Anybody wants to go in partnership with me on any kind of joint venture, I make them take this test. That this guy called Jay Henderson with Real Talent hired. I hadn't hired anybody in over 20 years without them taking his test, and it tells me, and I've taken the test. So he looks at the test, looks at my results, and he tells me, he says, "Oh, y'all are a good fit, or y'all be killing each other in like 6 months because you're too near alike." You know what I'm saying? You got to be different. You don't want yourself, which is funny because most people want to pick themselves because that's what they like, right? But that's exactly the opposite of you. You need somebody that could complement your weaknesses, and you could complement their weaknesses with your strengths. That makes a great partnership, don't you think?
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I would add now, which I love doing assessment work because it does really help people understand where they're coming from. I think also expectations is really important. And right. And when you're in a partnership for a long period of time, you stop communicating your expectations. And then you're also a little bit passive aggressive with your partners. And that really doesn't help your law firm grow. And it's not really good modeling for your associates.
Yeah.
Trying to raise up so that they become your partner someday too. So,
we were down, I do masterminds, and we were down in Key West last month, and we had one gentleman, and he was, he joined the mastermind. He paid it out of his own pocket, not even his part, because they didn't want to pay for it. And, he's trying to get them into the 21st century. They don't want to spend this. They don't want to do this. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I just told him, I said, you've got to be aligned. All your partners have got to be aligned and have the same vision, and the same, end game. And if they don't, you just need to leave, because he's been trying to get them to come over to his side for like 2 years. I said 2 years. If it hadn't happened, it's not going to happen. I don't think. I don't know.
I have to tell you that I get a lot of partners that come and work with us on an individual basis for coaching, and the partner pays for it themselves, which I always like. Why? You're helping your law firm.
Yeah.
But through individual coaching, which is really interesting, whether it's biz dev or leadership, whatever, we're able to help that partner then manage and maneuver their other partners around.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of times the one who's coming for coaching or masterminding, whatever, is the one that how their law firm goes is how they go is how their law firm goes. So if they can embrace that idea and then be able to maneuver through conversation, questioning, vision, values, whatever it might be, you can get all their partners on the same page. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, you got to have the same core values too, because if you're not aligned on that, not just vision but core values. Because I'm sitting here thinking, and I've made that mistake before, so I can tell you. I had my last legal partnership. I wanted to keep growing, and she says, "I'm through. I'm not signing any more notes. I'm not doing this." I said, "Well, what? That ain't what we came together on. We were going to build the biggest law firm in North Carolina." And her vision changed, and of course that didn't last but about 2 more years. But because we weren't aligned. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. I didn't blame her. Everybody's got a right. It's America. You can change your mind, right?
Yes, sir. That's exactly it.
But it don't mean I got to stick around and watch it. I sound like a terrible person, don't I?
Amen, Ken. I'm all on that. No, but the fact is that I think in many ways, when you're a partner in a law firm, it is very challenging for you to be able to communicate the things that you need to communicate. And unless you have a coach or a mastermind group or somebody working with you or your leadership team, you often have an idea and everybody else is not following it behind you. And like we were talking to the managing partner of a firm, and the next thing he's like, I'm all in, blah, blah, blah. And then I went to my executive committee and they said, no. Well, wait, isn't your name on the door? Like, if you want to do it, why is the executive committee saying no? You're like, it doesn't. The best law firms that I have seen, the most successful, are the ones that run their law firm like a business.
Yeah.
Most lawyers don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
No offense, and said would love.
And it is a business. I mean, you think about it. I mean, so what would you say is like the number one stumbling block or challenge that you see people that call you up? I mean, I know you said that got problems with their partners, but other than that,
a lot of them want their associates to be able to sell. Then here's the challenge with law firms also, is you bring in your associates, they spend what? X amount of years learning how to be a really good lawyer. Although ChatGPT might change all of this. So that's a whole other conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because ChatGPT might actually replace all of those associates. It's interesting. I went to a webinar of a guy who talked about ChatGPT, and he said, ChatGPT is like Pong was when video games were created. That when it was like Pong, and then it became, I don't know, Wii, PlayStation, Xbox, blah, blah, blah. He said, ChatGPT is Pong. It's just the beginning. So
I agree. I think it's going to be it's like the steam engine. It's like the microchip. It's going to just blow up everything.
Yeah. And I think as law firms, you got to be able to embrace all of that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we get a lot of managing partners who call us and say, we don't want to just send our associates out to the awkward lunch situation. And the pandemic has changed a lot. Like lawyers used to go out, have lunch.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted out. Can you take my thing? I'll take your thing. And that's really not how biz dev works anymore, because not all lawyers are going out and seeing each other. Right. So we get a lot of conversations around that too.
So you were talking about EOC earlier before we got on the deal. Can you explain to our lawyers what EOC is and what you do as an EOC coach too?
Yeah. So EOS, it's EOS. It stands
EOS,
for.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. That's so good. EOS stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. So EOS helps people who did not want to become business owners, but became business owners, run a profitable, productive, effective organization with some very simple, proven tools. Some of, like one of them from Vern Harnish, his 90-day plan, some from Jim Collins, right seat, right people, right bus, right direction. I mean, how hard is it for lawyers to fire other lawyers? I mean, it's crazy. And yet aren't they in the business of employment law that they help other people fire people? But they can't, like Shoemaker's Kids, they don't seem to have all that stuff. Yep. So between accountability charts and metrics, driving your organization from metrics, we have a law firm right now that we've been doing EOS for. And the metrics alone, they show up, it's facts. You can't dispute metrics, and lawyers like facts. So, and that helps everyone to get on the same page to run a better firm. So EOS is a really great thing for lawyers. However, what happens is that we get like two partners who are interested and one partner isn't, or vice versa. And then it never happens. So when you go back to Ken to talking about alignment, you have to be aligned, right?
That's the big deal. That's the big deal in the EOS and scaling up, is they say, in fact, they've got this whole software now that they encourage us to use. I think it's called Align or Alignable or something. I can't remember, but you throw all your things into your quarterly. I think they call them rocks. I just call them priorities. But I mean, it's whatever it is. It's projects. And then everybody's keeping up with everything. You put your daily huddles, and it's just everything in there. Get everything. You got your 2-page. They call it the 1-page It's a strategic plan, but it's really 2 pages because front and back. I don't know why they call it 1 page because it's really 2 pages. But anyway.
So it's funny because I think great systems, whether it's scaling up, which scaling up is a great system, whether it's scaling up or EOS, the idea of putting in a proven system into your law firm and not just sort of hacking away is really important. I mean, EOS runs on something called 90IO, same thing. We have rocks, which I call priorities too. You can't have more than 5 over a quarterly basis. You should be running your organization on a quarterly rhythm, which most organizations aren't. And you run great meetings, they called level 10 meetings through the 90IO. It's a great system. But the challenge is that how many law firms are not on great systems, right?
Yeah. They got, it's like I talk to a lot of these case management software companies, and I ask them this time, I ask every company, I say, of the lawyers that's using your stuff, how many of them use over 50% of the what you've got there, the bells and whistles, and it's less than 20%. So 80% of the lawyers are using less than 50% of what the software is made to do to make their life more simple.
Well, I think it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy. But I learned that back in, I want to say 2001. We bought this software, and the guy said, he said, the deal is, we want to go to a firm that's using it. Said, well, this firm here near you uses it, but they're only using like 25% of it. So we've hired a full-time person to work it and to train it and to keep on top of it. And we were using like 88% of it, which we still weren't using all of it. But my partner, they used to get my partner to go speak at their events because she was like the queen of it, not me. I'm technology terrible. I don't even type, so I'm the old goat.
No. I call it, so I'll tell you that I am a digital immigrant. So I speak broken technology is how I tell people. So
there you go.
You can start
I like
using that, right? There you go. Use that.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is again, I think lawyers are so wedded to billable hours. Am I getting my billable hours? Am I collecting my money? Right. So those are the two things. And they're focused, and think about what gets managed, gets measured, and what gets measured gets managed. So if you're only focused on collections and billable hours, how are you focused on growing your firm? And if you use software and you're paying for it, why are you not utilizing it fully to be able to maximize what's going on in your law firm? And then people are like I was working with a law firm today. We were doing our corporate training with them. And the guy was like, he's a litigator. So he says, I'm afraid to bring in more business because we don't have enough people. And I'm concerned that I got to slow roll this. And he's on with all his other partners. One of the other partners was like, hey, I can do litigation with you. Like, you're talking about this client. I've done that work. Bring it in. And I think so many lawyers have these stories that they tell themselves, and then they stop. They just focus on billable hours and collections, and they don't think about bringing in a new business to grow the firm.
Yeah.
All right. Have you seen that, Ken? I mean, in your experience, have you seen that?
Yeah, but I mostly deal with personal injury lawyers, and I'll be honest with you, they're a different breed. They're more hungry. They're renegades.
They have to be,
and
right?
It's very competitive
Field. Yeah, practice area. Well, you have to be because you're competing with everybody else for the business. So you have to know what's and not only that, but no offense and so with love, you're all the same, right? So what makes you different from everybody else?
Yeah.
Why should I go with you? And then most people shop on price, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great lawyer or a bad lawyer just because of what your price is.
Yeah. But so do you ever have to get into, before that, I remember something. What you said was, this is important. That'd be the most important thing you said today.
Okay.
If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Correct.
I used to say that. And then my other favorite one is, people respect what you inspect.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Which is why I said to you, everyone's worried about billable hours and collections. And it's interesting because I was talking to we were doing individual coaching yesterday of a partner, and she's talking to me about her other partner, and he's all distressed because he's like, we don't have enough billable hours. And so he's been really focused on billable hours. Well, her billable hour rate is much higher than his. So he turned to her and said, don't tell me you're going to work 60% of my 100%, because that's not going to work for me. And she said to me, what I wanted to say to him was, but it's not about the hours, it's about how much money we bring in. So if I work my hours, I'm bringing in X amount more than you. Do you realize that? But she said she bit her tongue and went, okay, I'll work the same billable hours. And I thought to myself, why are you managing a firm from billable hours? Why are you not managing it from like revenue, top line, bottom line, expenses in between, right?
That's right.
Like a business.
Yeah, because that's really that's when it all said and done. It's what was it? Vern was telling one day. He actually said it at our film event last year. He said, what was it? He said revenues for show, profits for, I can't remember, but he said, but cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king.
You know
right?
what I'm saying? And no sanity. Yeah, profit, net revenues for profit. I mean, it's for sanity, but cash flow is the king. You know what I'm saying? That's the big important thing. So yeah, I mean,
and think about this: how many law firms have a cash flow problem? And how do they deal with it? They borrow the money, right? And
yeah.
our firms don't have cash flow problems because we talk about how to manage a business so that you know when cash flow is going to be slow. And then what do you need to do to bring in more business at that time? So we were working with a law firm. I don't know, they had like 8 partners, 9 partners, a small law firm. And we're sitting around the table talking about their seasonality. So August is their slowest month. So we talked about, well, could you bring in business? And all of these clients, they happen to be corporate lawyers. They all have other things that they could upsell. So we talked about how could they upsell the things and then do them in the summer for cash flow. And they all went, wow, that'd be great. I'm like, yes, because you have to figure out when your cash flow is down and how do you make revenue from it. And if you have an opportunity to upsell or to ask for a referral, why wouldn't you? But most lawyers are so nervous to ask for anything. And I think, why? You ask questions all the time. So
yeah, I've never been bashful about asking for a referral. So.
Well, then Ken, tell me why other lawyers are so bashful.
I think it makes it feel like they're desperate. And hey, I'm a big old lawyer. I don't, I'm this and that, but the deal is, hell no, I want, send me all your friends and family,
Well, I think to myself, I learned this from my kids when in preschool. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's the first thing. And if you're really good at what you do, why wouldn't other people want to work with you? And I say to lawyers, look, they're not thinking about you. Like you're thinking, oh, I'm great. They'll know I'm great. They'll just send me people. No, unless you ask them, because they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and their lives and everything else. And it's not a bad thing to ask, because when they ask, they go, oh yeah, of course I'm happy to help you. It's the law of reciprocity. It's how humans are.
Yeah.
So
and you got to make it easy for them to do it too. One of my big deals is you have to write a book, and then you give them the book and say, when you see somebody needs my, whatever kind of, give them this book and say, this is the lawyer I use. It's a good icebreaker.
Oh, it's a great icebreaker. And it's not that hard to write a book.
No,
not at all.
Not with ChatGPT now. You can do it in about 3 hours.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. I actually had a lawyer write one the other day while in our mastermind, while we were doing the mastermind. He did it in 3 hours.
God bless him. And the
10 chapters. Of course, you won't listen to me, but
well, Ken, come on now. People are listening to you because we're on a podcast. So you should need to tell people to write a book.
Yeah. I mean, I push it, but a lot of people don't understand it. But see, there's so many ways to use a book. It gives you authority. Listen, I've written, when I was a lawyer, I wrote 7 little consumer books. And then since I got out, I've written about 8 books, but I've never made any money off of selling the book. But I make money off of getting business with the books. You know what I'm saying? It gives me authority. It's a good thing. It's a good lead magnet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Same, right?
Yeah, but Sorry. I never envisioned myself being a bestseller today. you know.
Well,
But
I have to say that and I'm going to give this advice because I used to write anthology books. So I wrote 6 anthology books. So for lawyers who want to write a book, get 10 of your closest friends. Everyone writes 1,500 words. You put it together. You go to 99 designs, get a cover, self-publish it through Amazon, and now you have a book with your name.
yeah,
Done.
I self-published every book I've had.
Me too.
You
And
know,
like you, it's just a colon call. It's not, I'm not planning on being on New York Times bestseller list.
no. In fact, I just my last one, it just went on Amazon Audible, whatever they call it, whatever the audio portion. I've never done one of those, so
Did you record it yourself in terms of the?
yes, and it was
Okay, I'm just going to say to Ken's listeners,
painstakingly hard.
I'm going to tell you, Ken's listeners, if you love listening to him in a podcast, you're going to love listening to him read you a book. I'm just going to tell you that right now. His voice is insane.
Yep, I got a radio voice and a radio face. That's what I tell everybody.
I love that. That's hilarious. I'm going to vouch that that's truth. No offense and so with love. It's all awesome. So,
Yeah. So anyway, anything, I'll try to keep these things about 30 minutes. So we've been here about 30 minutes. Anything, because we've just been rambling a little bit today, but anything, what would be like the 3 things you would tell lawyers they need to really pay attention to? And if they're not doing this, if they don't have problems, they're going to have problems, and then what they can do to fix it.
So I think that revenue is king, right? You got to have revenue. Metrics is super important. You got to follow metrics. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to surround yourself with a really great team, and if you don't have a really great team, then you got to create one for yourself. So to me, it's revenue, metrics, and team.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I got all these sayisms, and I think I've stolen half of them from Vern Harnish, but I tell all my lawyers, I say, no great law firm was ever built off the back of average employees.
Amen.
You got to have, you're going to get all A's, but you want as many as you can have, and you rest on B's that want to be A's, and you want to get rid of the C's. I used to do what Jack Welch did with GE. I read his book many years ago before he died. And at the end of the year, I cut like 10% of my staff. We went through and graded them, and I just cut them, and everybody thought I was crazy, but I said, no, I think Jack Welch is on something. I said, people got to know that they keep the game up. There's a chopping block at the end. I mean, things are a little different now. Hell, you can't beg somebody to come work for you now.
Well, in law land, that is truth, right?
It's just terrible. I mean, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing a lot of our people are going out offshore, and they're getting people from Philippines, Mexico, Costa Rica, Ecuador. I've hired 2 people from Pakistan to do like video editing and graphics, and they're great. And I'm paying them like $6 an hour,
Yeah.
And they're happy. They're happy.
Yeah. Right. And they do the work, and they're all fabulous. And the fact is that law firms have got to get up into the 21st century. You got to be able to do social media. You've got to have a really good website. And they're just, anyway. Yes, that's what they're saying. And what I'm going to say to you is this. If you want to know more about how to work with Ken or myself, go to cavemanbrain.com for me. And for Ken, you go to
just pilma.org.
There you go. And this way, between the two of us, you'll be able to have an amazing law firm that's making you a lot of money. And if you want your law firm to run yourself so that you can go to Tuscany to live, we can make that happen too.
Yeah. So you give them how to get it with your Caveman?
Cavemanbrain.com. Right there's downloadable tools that we use with our clients that are for free. We've got virtual trainings. And if you want to work with us, you can just do that too. Or just
really go to her, because until the end of the year, I only take 5 clients a year, and I've got my 5 clients, so I can't.
We take a lot more than 5 clients. We've got lawyers who are coaches on our staff. So yeah, because lawyers want to work with lawyers. I mean, I just have a PhD. Who the heck wants to work with me, right? But lawyers want to work with lawyers who've got 2 lawyers on the staff, so that you can coach. And if you want, just drop me an email at Jean@cavemanbrain.com. That's all I need to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
And thank you so much. It's been such a fun time. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah. So until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.